My question is regarding the future of your business, specifically your backup plan if things don't go as planned. If things don't go well and the current business doesn't really sustain you in the long term, what kind of occupation would you consider going into, especially considering your past education? I'd like you to go in depth about what you've specialized in the past as well as what you studied in college. Well, when I started in college, I was actually doing computer science. Now keep in mind, I was going to college studying in the university starting in the year... Uh-oh, my phone just screwed up. Starting in the year 2000. So I started out as a freshman doing computer science, and I did this for a whole year, and I ended up actually, even into my sophomore year doing computer science, and then two things happened. Number one, the bubble burst, meaning the whole industry collapsed from under itself, and basically there were no jobs for people who were studying computer science anymore, and I was like, oh shit, well, that's not good. And then number two, the program at my college, my university that taught computer science was terrible. They had one teacher who was responsible for all of the critical classes, and he was one of the worst teachers I've ever had in my life. Now, to give you some perspective, I'd always excelled in school at every subject ever, through grade school or elementary school, high school, and every other subject in college, except for the computer science class where I was getting like C's. And it was because the teacher just was not good. He was one of those guys, he was a brainiac, he was good at doing it, but not good at teaching it. And he was the only teacher. I complained to the dean and everything, nothing would be done, and so after about a year and a half of studying computer science, I saw the jobs were going away, and the teacher was terrible at teaching it to me anyway. I said, I'm gonna get out of this. So I switched over to a business major. Now, it was a general business major at first, so I learned a lot of, marketing, accounting, finance, management, all that kind of stuff. And then I decided to focus
on a finance, specialization.
So I ended up taking a lot more investment classes, accounting classes, this kind of stuff, all right? So my actual university degree is a Bachelor of Science with a specialist or a focus, a major in finance. Problem was, when I got out of college, guess what? There was no jobs in the finance field. What you needed to do was either know someone in the industry, or you needed to get a really bad job that had nothing to do with the finance industry and try to work your way up, or you needed to take unpaid internships where you had to work anywhere from 6 months to like 3 years.
Getting $0 pay.
All right, in order to get your foot in the door and finally eventually get an entry-level job in some kind of an investment firm. Guess what? I couldn't do that because I wasn't rich. Sorry, I'm not filthy rich. My parents weren't rich. They couldn't pay my way for 3 years, pay my bills, pay my college loans, which, by the way, I had college loans after getting out of college, duh. A lot of debt in my name that I had to take care of, and I had to work. Now, how am I going to do a full-time unpaid internship while also working? Not going to happen. So what ended up happening is once I got out of college, I ended up getting one of those kind of low-level, entry-level jobs at a mortgage place called Wells Fargo Financial. Come to find out, the place that I worked at ended up being a predatory lender, meaning that this business would actually actively seek out people with bad credit and try to give them loans at incredibly high loan-to-value, which is very bad. It's a very bad thing, immoral thing to do, because obviously these people got bad credit for some reason, right? Either it was something went wrong in their life, medical bills, they're not responsible with, their finances, they racked up their credit cards, tons of things, a million reasons why you could have bad credit, but I worked for that company for a year.
And I couldn't live with myself.
It was so bad. By the end of the year, I'd done 2 of these high loan-to-value mortgages with people that I fucking knew their houses were going to get foreclosed on. I just knew it. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And I ended up quitting that job, and then I flubbed around a bit, and then I ended up at Best Buy and other jobs. Then I ended up at helicopter support for a while, which was the office job I had for 4 or 5 years, and then YouTube. So that's kind of my employment history, my education history, all right? So realistically, if I were to try to go get a full-time job, another kind of job, okay, then what I do for YouTube, more than likely, there'd be a couple options. The first thing would be to start talking with, for example, Boeing. There's a company right around here called Boeing, and they are an aeronautical industry. Very similar to how I used to work for Helicopter Support, which was a subsidiary of Sikorsky Aircraft, which is a different aeronautical industry. In fact, Boeing and Sikorsky are direct competitors in a lot of ways, excuse me, through some of the stuff that they do. Oh, Jesus, now I got a tickle in my throat. There we go. So, what I could probably do is walk over there and say, listen, I have not been in this industry for a while. 2010, I got laid off, and I've been doing my own thing since then because when I lived in Connecticut, there wasn't a hell of a lot going on in regards of jobs or anything. And then I moved across the country purposely, number one, to better myself with this job, and number two, because I knew that the job industry is better over here. So, I've been out of practice for a while, but I could probably jump back into a customer service / continuous improvement kind of job for another aeronautical industry. So, I would think maybe I would have a shot. The problem is it's a very cutthroat industry, meaning they're probably going to look for someone over me who maybe has been in the industry the entire time and didn't take time off to do their own thing. Although, honestly, I never wanted to do YouTube full time. This was never my intention. YouTube was always going to be my hobby, and I wanted to keep an office job. It just didn't work out like that. I was forced into this. So, that would be one thing, one option. Go to Boeing and see if they're hiring and try to convince them that even though I'm out of the loop, that after getting up to speed for maybe 6 months or so, I could jump right in and do a lot of hard work for them and go back to that. The other thing would obviously be the gaming industry. Now, obviously not being a full-time YouTuber, but maybe still, I mean, I've got such a track record of
Obviously being able to speak publicly, clearly, concisely, look at my game reviews.
how they've improved over the years, and how when I do a game review, I can really relay an honest opinion, but I can weigh facts and everything. You know what I mean? Like, as a journalist, if I was a game reviewer or something like that, I think I could do a really good job. But I don't know who in the industry would want me because I don't have a journalism degree.
Which is hilarious because a journalism degree means absolutely fucking nothing. I have probably more experience as a gaming journalist than most people out there who do it fucking full time. I've played more games, I've reviewed more games than most of them, yet because I don't have a journalism degree, I probably won't qualify for the job, which is hilarious, right?
So for me, it would have to be like an extenuating circumstance. Looking at my track record on YouTube and seeing how much work I've done with gaming over the past 8 years and maybe getting my foot in the door that way, alright? But the problem is, and this is what I've been saying, honestly, for people saying, oh, well, Phil, if YouTube isn't working out, why don't you go get a job? It's very simple. These jobs are not going to be high paying, especially for me, either going back into that aeronautical industry after being away for some 6+ years, or actually at this point it's been 7 years, now that I think about it, or trying to get my foot in the door of journalism. It's not going to be like a good paying job. It's going to be entry level stuff for them. And sadly, you know, right now with the amount of money that I'm making doing YouTube full time, that wouldn't make up for it. I would have to basically try to find some kind of a magical balance where I'm still going to be able to pump out tons of YouTube content to keep paying my bills while I'm trying to get established in a new kind of job, and it probably honestly wouldn't work. It's going to end up net making me less money. And that's kind of the problem here is people, oh, what's your fallback plan? There never was one. I keep telling people that.
How could I have a fallback plan? I was forced out of my job in Connecticut.
Laid off, and I did this as a fallback. If this didn't work, I would have lost my condo. I would have lost everything. It just so happens that in 2011 and 2012, YouTube was on a big boom for gaming, and I was seen as the underdog of YouTube gaming because I was always the guy that didn't do it for money and had never done anything for a cent. And all of a sudden, now I really needed the help, so people came out to watch my videos and support me. And for 2 years there, things were insanely good. And then kind of the YouTube gaming bubble burst, and, you know, saw declines after that. And, you know, everything else is history. I'm not going to talk about the copyright strikes and shit again. But the bottom line is there's no way. There was no way with a YouTube thing like this, not knowing how things would go with YouTube as a business, not knowing how things would go with my side of the stuff.
How could I predict? I couldn't. How could I plan? I couldn't.
And a lot of people say, why didn't Phil save up money? Well, I had to pay off all my existing debt. Remember I just mentioned all the debt I had from college and all this stuff, all those years when I had all those jobs that I was jumping around? I had all that existing debt. And what I did is I took those first 2 years of YouTube to pay off all that existing debt that I had. Of course, now it sucks because now I'm right back in square one. I got all that debt back again. So it kind of sucks. I don't even know what else to say. I love doing my job. I don't want to stop doing this. But we have to see how things go with YouTube and everything, and are they ever going to fucking get their act together, or are they going to continuously lower the amount of profit that people can make doing this full-time, not be transparent about the changes that they make to the site, and keep fucking over content creators? I don't know. And it seems, it's not just me saying this, it's almost every major YouTuber is saying it at this point, so you can't just say it's just Phil anymore. Oh, it's just Phil saying it. Not anymore. I said it for years, all of a sudden the big guys started to feel the bleed, and they start talking about it, even though I've been saying this for years. So anyway, Energetic Snail, I know I just went into massive detail. Hopefully that explained my background and possibly what I could do, but sadly I don't know if it would work out. It would be a huge gamble stopping doing YouTube full-time to go take the time to try to find a job, hope to get lucky and someone will give me a chance, right? And then bust my ass to basically break back into that kind of the industry, or an industry like journalism that I've never done before. It's incredibly iffy, and like I said, the decline in income I would get for not doing YouTube full-time, I don't even know if I'd make it work. So there you have it. So, 2 questions. The first one is from Proto, and he says, Phil, I've been a long-time viewer ever since you did your original Fallout 3 playthrough. I'm wondering, do you have any possibility of working with other YouTubers in the near future? I always like the idea of you and SSOHPKC collaborating, or just you and any other YouTuber in general, excuse me. And then the other person who asked a very similar question right after, Dooley2684, actually asked the following. I have a very similar question. Would you consider reaching out to famous YouTubers to do a podcast with them, for example? It'd be a nice way to get more viewers. I think it would also be an effective way to show people who you really are and to counter all those negative videos that haters have made about you, yada, yada, yada. Here's the bottom line, everyone. I don't watch YouTube videos. I'll say this once again. I don't watch YouTube videos. Yeah, I'm a full-time YouTuber, but I focus on the gaming industry, I focus on my own work, and that's it. Now, here's why. Because if all day, every day, all I did was YouTube, I would probably end up hating gaming, and I would hate YouTube. That's the bottom line. If my entire life was eat, sleep, YouTube, repeat, I'd probably not want to do this as a job anymore. I'd be incredibly burnt out. Because my work focuses on doing game playthroughs and streams and vlogs like this. But then when I'm not working, I do other stuff. I watch TV and movies. I have silly mobile games that I play on my phone that are completely unrelated to anything that I would do on YouTube. That's the kind of stuff that lets me unwind. If my entire existence was YouTube, I would hate doing this. That's the bottom line. I know it, because there's people, their entire life is their work. And then they end up realizing, I have no hobbies, I have nothing else outside of this, and this is all of me. And that's not what I would want to become. I want it to be that I can come to work every day and play games or do a vlog like this and have fun, and not necessarily be like, I'm so burnt out, because then after work, I went on YouTube and I researched a bunch of videos, and then in my free time, I watched more videos, and I did this and did this and did this. Why don't you collaborate with these other big YouTubers? Why don't you go to events like other big YouTubers?
Because I'm not a big YouTuber.
I'm gonna repeat that. I'm not a big YouTuber. I never was a big YouTuber. The most subscribers I ever had was 180,000 subscribers. Yeah, I would get hundreds of millions of views, but it was on playthroughs. It wasn't because I was this big figurehead on YouTube who I could make a video and immediately get 1 million views on a video. Very rarely did I ever even get any attention like that. Okay? So I think this is what people don't realize. I was never on that level where I had so much money and free time because I was so rich from YouTube that I could do this kind of shit. I never got there. Alright? I just didn't. So, it's funny because the question is, will I ever collaborate with other bigger YouTubers?
Why would they do that?
I mean, I'm being honest here. Why would a bigger YouTuber, someone who has 1 million subs and makes 6 figures, 500,000 or more a year, why would they want to do anything with me? I do co-op stuff. It's just that people don't realize it and or don't really talk about it because it's not another bigger YouTuber. So, for example, just this past week, I did a full gameplay stream with Venomous Fat Man. He's a fan of mine, a longtime fan. That was a full collab right there, a full 3+ hours where we did gameplay together. But no one mentions that, right? How many times have I now done some co-op kind of stuff with my friend Brian, who has his own YouTube channel, and he's into fighting games, but every once in a while he'll join us for other kinds of stuff. He just joined us to do Battlefield over Christmas, but no one wants to talk about that. Why? Because these aren't big YouTubers. So basically what people are saying is, can you do co-op or collaboration, but not with someone who's like a normal size, only with a huge YouTuber? And the answer right now, quite frankly, no. It's not going to happen. Because no one's going to convince a bigger YouTuber to do basically charity work to do collaborations with me. And it's hilarious because all over the years, people have said, why doesn't Phil collab with other YouTubers? And I say, what the hell would they ever want to collab with me for? You know what I mean? What is the incentive unless they're doing charity work? It doesn't make sense. For them, they're going to focus on bigger or better, or, if they're not going to get anything out of it, why are they going to bust their ass or go out of their way to do anything with me? I know big YouTubers don't want to collab with me. I haven't really brought this up ever. I'll bring it up now. I'd say about a year and a half ago, I really, really strongly wanted to do a charity stream. I wanted to do a charity marathon stream that would run about 12 hours long during the summertime when things were slow, okay? This was a time period when I knew, I wasn't going to get a lot of views or anything on the stuff that I was doing regardless, and if I did a charity event, maybe a marathon where I run through a game from start to finish, that would get a lot of attention and to get people pledging to charity. Now, what I wanted to do some co-op segments with bigger YouTubers, and I contacted 3 bigger YouTubers than me, okay? And some of them people know have relations and some don't or whatever. And I said, if I were to do a charity stream, would you consider showing up? Maybe just saying hello? Would you consider maybe doing some co-op? And out of the 3 people I contacted, only 2 responded, and both of them said
no.
Now, Dooley actually said, what about a podcast? Well, a couple people have contacted me about being on podcasts, all right, over the years. At one point, it was easy. I could just jump on Skype and get on a podcast and talk, and it was easy. But about 2.5 years ago, actually, it was early 2015, someone got a hold of my IP, and basically DDoS attacked me for about 6 months. On and off. It wasn't a constant thing, but on and off. It took me 2 months to figure out what was going on, and because my ISP, sadly, most ISPs in the United States are not equipped for this kind of shit, it took me 2 months to get the issue resolved and get a new IP and all of that. The bottom line is, I can't risk having my IP leaked ever again. Ever. Or else my business is over. I can't ever stream or nothing. And to be on a podcast, everyone wants to do Skype. Everyone. I've been contacted in the past year by 3 different podcasts. I'm not kidding you. I'm not going to call them out or anything. 3 different podcasts. They all want me to go on Skype. I said, I can't go on Skype. Skype is insecure. So apparently people think I'm like bullshitting when I say, oh, I can't be on Skype. No, it's the truth. Being on Skype is incredibly fucking risky for me.